Mount Hood. From a distance, it's almost too perfect, like a painting of what a mountain should be. But those who know better understand the truth. This is no postcard. It's a sleeping giant. And on May 12th, 1986, it woke up. You've heard about Everest. You know about K2. But this story hits different because it wasn't supposed to happen. Not here, not to them. 9 students from Oregon Episcopal School, 3 experienced guides, a routine spring climb on a mountain they thought they understood. The morning started like any other spring climb. A group of students from Oregon Episcopal School, not kids really, but young men and women full of that particular mix of excitement and nerves that comes with a first major summit attempt. They'd trained for this, prepared for this. Their instructors were seasoned mountaineers who knew Hood's moods better than most. The forecast called for mild conditions. Nothing out of the ordinary for May, just another day on the mountain. But here's the chilling part. While they were packing their gear, checking crampons, adjusting harnesses, something was stirring in the atmosphere. A storm system, unexpected and vicious, was gathering strength just beyond the horizon. The National Weather Service would later confirm the bulletin had been issued, posted even. Somewhere at Timberline Lodge, that warning sat ignored as the group began their ascent. At 6:17 a.m., under skies that still held nothing but promise, they signed the climber's register. Just names on a page. Just another climb beginning. By noon, those signatures would be the only proof they'd ever been there at all. The first signs came quietly. A shift in the wind. Clouds moving too fast. The kind of details an experienced climber might notice if they were looking in exactly the right place at exactly the right moment. But on Hood that day, that moment passed unseen. By the time anyone realized what was coming, the mountain had already closed its jaws around them. What followed wasn't just bad weather. It was nature's perfect trap. A sequence of small oversights and split-second decisions that would become a case study in mountaineering safety. The kind of tragedy that makes you wonder, if it could happen to them, with their training, with their preparation, could it happen to anyone? The first warning came as a whisper, a gust of wind that shouldn't have been there. The kind of thing an experienced climber notices in their bones before their brain catches up. By 10:30 a.m., the bluebird skies were gone, swallowed whole by clouds moving faster than anything they'd seen before. This wasn't just weather, this was the mountain showing its teeth. The temperature dropped so fast, their thermometer needles practically spun, 40 degrees to 0 in minutes. Those 80-mile-per-hour winds. They arrived not as a gradual build, but like a freight train. One moment calm, the next a whiteout so thick you couldn't see your own ice axe. The guides made the call, turned back immediately. But turning back on Mount Hood in a storm isn't like turning around on a hiking trail. Every downward step became a battle against gravity and freezing skin. The students roped up tight, moving as one unit. That's when the first slip happened. A 16-year-old lost his footing on an ice bulge. Just a small stumble, but on a 45-degree slope, small mistakes become catastrophes. The rope snapped taut, yanking 2 others off their feet. Their head guide, a veteran of many Hood summits, threw his entire weight onto his ice axe. The pick held, but the impact fused the metal to his bare palm when his glove split open. By noon, the storm had them pinned at 9,000 feet. Visibility, 0. Wind chill, minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The nylon jackets that had been perfect for a spring climb might as well have been tissue paper. One of the students started slurring his words, early hypothermia. Another kept repeating, "I just want to go home," like a mantra. Meanwhile, down at Timberline Lodge, the first worried calls were coming in. Families were expecting their kids back by early afternoon. The ranger who finally saw the missed weather bulletin felt his stomach drop. A search team scrambled, but here's the cruel truth about mountain rescues. Sometimes the mountain says no. The storm was so violent the helicopters couldn't even get close. Ground teams made it about halfway up before the weather forced them back. Back on the mountain, the group made their final stand at 1:45 p.m. Without shelter and with strength failing, they attempted to dig a snow cave. The wind filled each excavation faster than they could dig. One guide turned his body into a human windbreak while students huddled behind him. Their final radio transmission, logged at 2:03 p.m., was fractured and desperate. "We can't feel anything. Please ... Then silence. The storm kept raging. Then came the second fall, this one fatal. 2 students and a guide, their bodies already weak from cold and exhaustion, lost their footing. They slid nearly 1,000 feet down the icy slope before the rope snagged on a rock outcrop. The impact broke bones. The cold did the rest. As night fell, the survivors faced an impossible choice: stay and freeze, or risk moving in darkness. They tried both. Some curled together for warmth, their breathing slowing as their core temperatures dropped. Others stumbled downward, following compasses through the maelstrom. One student would later tell investigators he saw lights below him, rescue teams just a few hundred yards away, but the wind carried his screams in the wrong direction. Small mercies emerged amidst the horror. A shared candy bar passed between numb fingers. Weak smiles exchanged through ice-crusted balaclavas. The youngest climber, just 15, reportedly hummed a hymn as others drifted into unconsciousness. These fragile moments of humanity persisted even as their bodies shut down, cell by cell. The mountain kept its victims for 3 days before the weather cleared enough for recovery. What searchers found haunts them to this day. Ice-encrusted ropes frozen in desperate shapes, a single glove still gripping an ice axe, the snow around it stained red from frostbitten hands. Most heartbreaking of all, 2 students found together, arms wrapped around each other in what looked like an embrace. They had shared their last warmth. This wasn't an expedition gone wrong. It was a masterclass in how mountains kill, not with drama, but with 100 small, merciless details. A missed weather report, a bootlace tied too loose, a 5-minute delay in turning back. The difference between life and death on Hood isn't measured in miles, but in moments. The cruelest lesson? The storm's center passed directly over their planned route. Had they turned back just 30 minutes earlier, they might have beaten it. Instead, they became permanent residents of the mountain they had hoped to conquer, their story forever woven into Hood's icy slopes. The first rescue teams reached the upper slopes at dawn on the 3rd day, their crampons biting into snow that had already forgotten the violence. What they found wasn't just a tragedy, it was a crime scene written in ice and frozen flesh. Each body told its own story, a guide's arm still wrapped around 2 students. A teenager's journal open to a half-written entry about seeing his first mountain sunrise. The mountain had preserved their final moments with cruel clarity. News of the disaster rippled far beyond Oregon. Front pages from Portland to New York carried photos of those bright young faces. The climbing community reeled. This wasn't some far-off Himalayan peak, but a beginner's mountain just 50 miles from a major city. Congressional hearings followed. Outraged parents demanded answers. The overlooked weather bulletin became Exhibit A in a damning case against complacency. At the memorial service, one father said something that still echoes. "They didn't lose to the mountain. The mountain can't win. They just ran out of time before we learned enough." Standing at the stone plaque on Hood's southern flank today, watching modern climbers check their electronic weather displays and satellite messengers, it's hard not to wonder, would it have been enough? Could any technology have saved them from that perfect storm of small errors? The answer, like Hood itself, remains deceptively simple. Probably not. But their legacy means fewer families now stand at similar memorials. Fewer rescuers have to chip frozen bodies from the ice. Fewer climbers take that first careless step onto the glacier without triple-checking the forecast. That's how mountains teach, not with warnings, but with consequences. Not with guidebooks, but with stories carved into the rock. The '86 disaster didn't make Mount Hood safer, it made climbers wiser. And on a mountain that kills at least one person every year, that wisdom is the only real protection we've got. The mountain remembers nothing. The ice keeps no secrets. It's up to us to learn what they paid to teach us.